What is a good developer for my startup project? Such a question. I've been helping tons of startups to select developers, and I've also reviewed and audited tons of source code of startup product. Some were good and others not at all. In today's episode, we are going to talk about junior and senior developers, and more specifically, what quality level you need for which type of project. Hi, I'm Amaury, founder and CEO at My CTO Friend, where founders come to learn how to build their tech startup. And with this Startup Snack series, available on both podcast and YouTube, we want to share the essential to make it easier for you to build your tech startup. And when we launch a startup, we all have beautiful stories in mind. Apple products, successful social media or platform. But what we often tend to forget is that it took them a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of mistakes to learn what to do and finally make it right. And what really matters when building a startup is to avoid over quality. Yes, over quality is a very, very bad thing because it takes more time, more money than required, and it often blocks us to pivot or to change our business model because we've already invested so much in some cases. And also because there is some good chance that a good chunk of what you will develop on the beginning will not be useful at all for your customers, and you might want to remove it from your product. It's often a small percentage of what we initially imagine that will make your product a success. More idea you develop, more confusing your product will be. Think about Facebook and all the business aspect of Facebook, for example. So basically, the real question that you need to ask yourself is, what do we need a developer for? Is it to develop a long-term product or a short-term prototype? Is it a simple or a complex solution? A simple product can be done in a quick and dirty manner because if it works, you will have the market proof and then you will be able to get either some funding or maybe just to get some cash from your initial clients, and you will be able to restart development from scratch. But if it's a complex product, we can still do some quick but not so dirty developments because we don't want to waste too much time of our investments. And with that in mind, what makes a good developer for a startup is to do some quick and dirty works, but by using high standards. It requires a self-awareness of our own level, our own skills, strengths, and weaknesses, and to make dirty choices on purpose, mastering what will be the consequences down the road of making those decisions. To represent that, I like to draw two lines. From the bottom of the top to the top, the level of the developers, the level of their skill set. And from the left to the right, the expected quality of the product. If your product is very simple, then you can go for quick and very dirty approach with cheap developers, which is on the bottom left-hand corner. That's also why no-code is well known because it's quick for product that will remain simple. Now, if you don't want to restart development after 6 months, you should still consider a quick but not so dirty approach with developers that will use well-known technologies and best practices. To keep most of the work your developer will do on the version 1, you will need to use well-known languages, frameworks, and best practices. And don't aim for the best performance right from the bat, just the fastest way to develop your product, at least on the code aspect, on the code side. And it's not only a matter of code, by the way, it's also a matter of how you will structure your database. Your developers will need to take the required time to structure things the right way. Let me give you an example, very simple example. If you are building a platform to sell or to rent bikes, the worst thing your developer could do is to create a bike table just because tomorrow, maybe you will pivot and you will also rent skateboards or kayaks or whatever. So your database needs to be structured in a generic manner to be compatible with future developments and future version of your business. For example, you can have a table named goods or product. That's simple. And That's what I call the quick but not so dirty approach. You can do some quick and dirty code, but you need to think and to anticipate how your product will evolve over time so that you will be able to reuse on long term some part of your development, and especially the database thing. Never underestimate the quality of your database. That's the heart of your application. That being said, the last situation is if you already have some important investment, I mean the last good situation, then in that case, you are already sure that you want to build a long-term and maybe a complex product right from the bat. So in that case, go directly for high-level developers without any quality compromise. Because the very, very last case that you will never want is to build a long-term product, maybe a complex product with cheap and low-level, low-skills developers. The bottom right-hand corner. It will become a nightmare, and you will have invested so much if you invest too much in a low-quality product that you will not want to throw things away, and you will be stuck. That's the worst case you could do. And I've seen founders stuck, having invested tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands into developments that has no future at all. Not because of the business, but because it's built upon very bad foundation. And every time you touch anything in the code, you generate bugs and countless hours of debugs and endless refactoring. So in conclusion, what's important when launching the development of your product and choosing a developer is the initial complexity of the version 1 and the complexity of the long-term version of your product. You can only choose a quick and dirty approach if you know that you will throw everything away after a few months. Now, if you want to have some simple but evolutive foundation, then ask to your developer to really invest the required time to make your database evolutive and to be sure that you use high standard and good standard approach without tweaking too much things, because you need to be able to have more developers and because it could cost you a lot. If you tweak too much, you might not be able to keep that product on long-term perspective and to evolve your product. Now, if you enjoy learning with us and want to see more, consider subscribing. Help us spread the word by hitting the like button and by sharing with your entrepreneur friends. And if you have any question or want to suggest a topic, feel free to comment down below. And you can also check out our program and how you can join.